I got a request to do a video on Morgellons. Not just Morgellons though, particularly Morgellons caused by GMO, genetically modified food. And I did a search today and I finally came up with something. It was based on this suggestion by Mark Fergola, who posted to one of my videos a comment that gave me a hint as to the link between GMO and Morgellons, that being agrobacteria. And so I went out and I did a search on agrobacteria, and I figured out, or actually I found an article, Agrobacteria and Morgellons disease, a GM connection, a genetically modified connection. And I don't think that it was in this article that it was described that I don't know, not from what I've read so far in this article. It's a pretty big article. Back to the top here. I didn't find that they describe how agrobacteria are used to how they're used to modify the genetics of plants in order to make genetically modified organisms. But apparently that's what it is that they are used for, related to GMO foods, is agrobacteria, so bacteria of food, agrobacteria. They are used to modify the genetics of food. I don't know how they're winding up in Morgellons patients, that Morgellons patients would be infected with this, but I did read a bunch that related the working of soil with infection of agrobacteria and Morgellons. It's actually on a different site, but okay, I guess it was in this article, Agrobacterium and the genetic engineering connection. So this is where they're discussing how agrobacteria are used to make GM foods, if you really want to call them foods. This was the very telling part of this article, though, the Agrobacterium connection, which they say, let me see, Saitovsky's team took scanning electron microscope pictures of the fibers in or extruding from the skin of patients suffering from Morgellons disease, confirming that they are unlike any ordinary natural or synthetic fibers. They also analyzed patients for Agrobacterium DNA. Skin biopsy samples from Morgellons patients were subjected to high stringency polymerase chain reaction tests for genes encoded by the Agrobacterium chromosome, and also for Agrobacterium virulence genes and tDNA of its TI plasmid. They found that all Morgellons patients screened to date have tested positive for the presence of Agrobacterium, whereas this microorganism has not been detected in any of the samples derived from the control healthy individuals. So there it is. They connect Agrobacterium to Morgellons. It had been my understanding that Morgellons is caused by a bunch of different things, that possibly not Morgellons as it is now understood, that what they what they call Morgellons always shows that there's fibers in the skin of the patient, but a few years back when I was doing a bunch of research on Morgellons, it wasn't so stridently imposed a symptom that Morgellons always be present, or that Morgellons, that there always be present fibers, because there were people who were being diagnosed as Morgellons, which back then they were just considering it the crazy disease that, you know, you were just imagining the sensation of bugs crawling under your skin. You were imagining the itchiness and all this. But, you know, now they, at least some doctors, you know, I'm sure some doctors are still on this old script of it's just in your head. But, I don't know, the doctors who have been studying it have proved a coincidence that with Morgellons coincides fibers in the skin. So, I don't know, where you might receive a diagnosis of Morgellons, even though you do not have fibers in the skin, it would be Morgellons caused by a different mechanism. And from what I've seen, all the microscope work of people who were diagnosed as Morgellons, that, you know, generally they have to do the microscope work on their own. They have to like hire somebody to do the microscope work. But there's all kinds of little things that, you know, either fibers, or there might be like little parts of bugs, little parts of insects. I don't know, there were even some like little microchips that had like tiny little stamps on them to identify who they were created by, stuff like that. But yeah, I want to put forth in this video that if you are diagnosed with Morgellons, it is not necessarily this type of Morgellons. That it might be just that your doctor doesn't know jack diddly, and so, you know, he doesn't know how to cure your itchiness, and so he gives you a diagnosis of Morgellons to say that you're crazy and that you're just imagining what it is that you're feeling in your skin. But one of the videos I did a while back, there was a doctor who had just recently released an interview to a local news organization. I think it was in Texas, I'm not too sure, but he had been curing his patients who had been diagnosed as Morgellons by merely chelation, which is the process to remove heavy metals from the skin, or the process to remove heavy metals from the human form. So to detox heavy metals, chelation, that's spelled C-H-E-L-A-T-I-O-N. It's from Latin for claw, chele. Anyhow, with that knowledge, and just upon having read that there was a connection between Agrobacterium and Morgellons, also with the understanding that Agrobacterium, it modifies DNA, that it inserts itself into the DNA. It wasn't for many years, it wasn't understood that Agrobacterium can modify the DNA of animals, so it can modify human DNA, but I had made this I had not really a recommendation, but I had made this statement to Mark Fragola that both cancers and bacteria can be eliminated from the human form by oxidative medicine, which there's There's a bunch of different ways that you can do oxidative medicine. There's like hydrogen peroxide baths. You add a cup of hydrogen peroxide into a bath. You soak in the bath for 20 minutes. You can do this a few times a week, and maybe you do like 3 days in a row and then take a couple days off. You don't want to overdo hydrogen peroxide because you can superoxidize your own tissue. But human tissue has catalase, which it is a layer which is to prevent the oxygen from reaching the very sensitive, the very oxygen sensitive inner workings of the cell. So the catalase, it is a protective layer against oxidation. So the human form can endure a lot more oxygen than the typical human exposes themselves to on a daily basis. You know, generally people get the most of their oxygen just from breathing, but hydrogen peroxide actually, so 2 hydrogens, 2 oxygens, hydrogen peroxide, it is what functions to dissolve disease by the immune system. So what the immune system does, it sends out the white blood cells which gang up on the disease, so they stick to the disease, and then they produce hydrogen peroxide to actually dissolve the disease so that it can be carried out of the body, to make it smaller and smaller so that it will go through the pathways of the body. And I don't know, just to like have an official source to provide to Mark Fragola, I went out there and I found a doctor who's working in Thailand. His name's Ted, and he claims to be curing people of Morgellons, and he suggests his treatment, which let's see, this is on earthclinic.com, cures Morgellons questions.html. Ted from Bangkok, Thailand replies, the classic treatment, my remedy for Morgellons, has always been borax and hydrogen peroxide. Borax being it's a means to chelate, especially especially radioactive material. That's something else that can make your skin very itchy, which is what was being covered by that past video that I did about the doctor who was curing people of Morgellons by chelation. I don't know, that like radioactive metal, when it's in contact with the skin, it will make you itchy. You know, like if there's fallout like there is right now from Fukushima, and you go out in the precipitation, that there's like rain or snow or whatever, and you get a raindrop on your head, then after the raindrop dries, then you might feel an itch. You know, that there might be an itch to the area where you had this Fukushima fallout rain on your head. Fukushima is from another video that I did, is they're planning on incinerating the waste from the Fukushima nuclear disaster until at least the year 2014. Now, when they gather up that nuclear radiated waste, they're walking around Japan and they're with Geiger counters, and they're measuring what all is radioactive. And when they find some stuff that's radioactive, they're gathering it up and they're bringing it to an incinerator and they're burning it right into the atmosphere, which is putting all that nuclear material into the atmosphere. It's being carried all the way around the globe. It's being delivered by the jet stream over America and everywhere. And it's raining. You know, that when it rains, especially when the jet stream is over your town, that the rain is radioactive. and it's related to the Fukushima nuclear meltdown, which they didn't even stop the Fukushima nuclear meltdown. It's still a raging nuclear meltdown. They haven't even bothered to look in the hole yet, which it bored a hole under the nuclear plant, and they haven't sent anything in to take some video of what the nuclear meltdown is, how far into the earth it has bored. But a nuclear meltdown, once it gets started, it doesn't stop on its own. It requires being stopped. But they haven't expressed any intention to stop this nuclear meltdown. Eventually it's going to reach the mantle, and then there's probably going to be a supervolcano. At December of 2011, it was reported by Tom Hartman that the nuclear meltdown was 230 tons of nuclear fuel in what he called a tunnel under the nuclear plant. I would call it a shaft, because a tunnel, it usually goes horizontal. A shaft is a vertical hole, and that's what this will do, considering that it is following gravity, that it will bore a shaft through the whole of everything that is in its path of gravity to the center of the Earth. Anyhow, Morgellons, can be caused by metals toxin. It could be caused by mercury toxin, which was the diagnosis of that doctor from Texas who was saying that he was curing people of Morgellons, people who had been diagnosed as Morgellons, that he had detected their being mercury toxic, and so he performed chelation on them, and there's like means to chelate available online. You can buy chelating agents, Tetrasodium EDTA, that's one. There's other ways that you can chelate. You can just consume a bunch of garlic and onions and turmeric. And like you can like grind up citrus peels. The onions, garlic for sulfur, organosulfur, organic sulfur, and the peels, like orange peels, or you could actually buy pectin, which is what orange peel is, or apples. It's like the core of the apple, not really the core, not in where there's the seeds and all that, but the fruit body of the apple. The peel of the apple is not much pectin, but the fruit of the apple is pectin. The rind of an orange is pectin, opposite with the orange, that the fruit is not much pectin, but the rind is pectin. And pectin, it is a natural chelator, that it will grab up the metals in the human form and it will pull them out of the body. Chele, to claw. It will claw onto the metals and pull them out of the body. Yeah, trying to see if there's anything. I guess I'll include these links, and there was one other link that I found that was interesting, so I'll include that. Yep, I guess that's about it. If you suffer Morgellons and you do like a hydrogen peroxide and a chelation, hydrogen peroxide treatment and chelation, and you find that it did not cure, it did not help. Another solution that I've seen, somebody who never found out what it was that was causing them Morgellons had done a treatment with colloidal silver and said that they were cured. So there's a bunch of different solutions, and if you don't have success with one solution, you should try something else, and feel free to message me, comment on the video, or send me a PM on here, or get in touch with me on Facebook or something, and I'll do some research into what it is that you're suffering and try to find what it is that will cure your condition.